Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Whidbey Island. I'm Mark Simpson, the lay worship leader for the service today. To those of you who are visitors, thank you for being here. To those of you who are members and friends, it's good to see you again. And those on Zoom, hello and welcome. I'm glad you're here too. Let us enter into worship with these words from Sarah Stewart. Bring who you are as you enter our church this morning. Bring your best self and struggling self. Bring your mistakes and your triumphs. Bring your shortcomings and your commitment. We come together this morning as a congregation to pray, to sing, to remember our promises, and vow to live by them again. You are here now. Open your heart.
A flame within a chalice is a symbol of the Unitarian Universalist faith tradition. We light our chalice in gatherings and worship. Mark will light our chalice with these words of Stephen Winters Bona. Allow this light to guide you, to bring you to a place where you feel balanced and present. Let it remind you to feel your breath, to surround yourself with the things you cherish. Let it help you release the things you cannot control, and remember that you are not alone, that we are all connected and all working to be a beacon of light in this chaotic time.
I'd like to express my gratitude to those behind-the-scenes folks who are involved in making this service possible. Opus Balick is back there at the desk doing both Zoom and the controls for in here. Thank you, Opus. And Tjoekler is here, returning here, back as our guest musician. And thank you, ushers and greeters. And gratitude for our coffee hosts, Diane and John, who jumped in at the last minute. In fact, the coffee is the next best thing to the service today, as well as the conversation that follows. So I invite all of you to stay. Which brings me to this sincere plea. We need people to make and serve the coffee. Please check the sign-up list that's right back there in the door, and put your name next to a date, and then write it down so you know, and we'll enjoy your coffee. I have one announcement here from Effie. Register today for the Adult Education Series, A New Vision, that begins July 8 and 16, I believe. And Effie will be facilitating it, and she is here, and I'm sure you can talk to her after the service if you have questions about A New Vision. It's said that the hearts of storytellers are revealed in their stories. In those stories, we glimpse their lives. Their stories awaken us. Life touches life. Spirit touches spirit. Today, 3 members of our congregation will be sharing stories. Jenny Matsumoto will explain to us the art of listening and the art of telling. Cheiron McMahill and Connie Johnson will tell personal stories that illuminate their faith journeys. They are trusting you with their stories. The stories invite you to share a common emotional ground, to entertain other ways of seeing. I think that when we listen to stories, we become more than what we are. We share a common emotional ground with a storyteller and allow ourselves to be challenged by them. Tracy Robinson Harris says, I need you, storyteller, the experiences and perspective you bring so that I may know truth beyond my partial truth. Now, please stand in body or spirit for our affirmation, and please remain standing for the, if you prefer, the first hymn, number 16. This practice to live together, to dwell together in peace, to seek truth in love, and to help one another.
I was telling Mark earlier, it's really different standing up here instead of being out there. So, but I'm glad to be able to take part in the service today. This reading that I'll be sharing is by Laura Hershey and explains the risk of storytelling. What you risk telling your story, you will bore them. Your voice will break. Your ink will spill and stain your coat. No one will understand. Their eyes will become fences. You will park yourself forever on the outside. Your differentness, once and for all, revealed. Dangerous. The names you give to yourself will become epithets. Your happiness will be called bravery. Denial. Your sadness will justify their pity. Your fear will magnify their fears. Everything you say will prove something about their God or their economic system. Your feelings that change day to day, kaleidoscopic, will freeze in place, brand new forever. Justify anything they decide to do with you. Those with power can afford to tell their story, or not. Those without power risk everything to tell their story, and must. Someone, somewhere, will hear your story and decide to fight. To live and refuse compromise. Someone else will tell her own story, risking everything. I shared a reading earlier about the telling, but this is the hard part, listening. Listening isn't as easy as it seems it should be. In this short essay by Richard S. Gilbert explains what might happen if we do. Listen, this is a noisy world. You may have heard the story of a dispute in the student union of one university. It seems the presence of a jukebox disrupted conversation, The conversationalists petitioned for the removal of the offending machine. Music lovers petitioned to keep it, arguing that it was a very democratic machine. If you do not like what you hear, you can vote with your quarter to hear something else. But the conversationalists replied what they wanted to hear was silence, and that was not among the options offered. The ingenious resolution was to include a 3-minute silent disc among the records. We are a verbal group. We are all good at talking. We string endless numbers of words together. I do not know a greater discipline is required than to talk, to listen than to talk. To speak comes naturally for most of us. It is our default mode. We speak at a drop of a hint that there is someone who will listen. I read of one psychoanalyst who told the story of a patient whom he said he saw 3 times per week over a period of a year. At every session, the patient would lay down on the couch and plunge into free association. At the end of the year, the man pronounced himself cured and proffered his grateful thanks. The analyst declared that during the whole of this period, he had offered no interpretation whatsoever. The pupils of the Tendai school used to study meditation before Zen Buddhism was entered into Japan. 4 of them, who were intimate friends, promised one another to observe 7 days of silence. On the first day, all were silent. Their meditation had begun auspiciously. But when night came and the oil lamps began to grow dim, one of the pupils could not help but exclaim to a servant, "Fix those lamps." The second pupil was surprised to hear the first one talk. "We are not supposed to say a word," he remarked. "You two are stupid. Why did you talk?" asked the third. "I'm the only one who has not talked," concluded the fourth. In Quaker tradition, we have a liturgical silence in which one listens to the Spirit before one speaks. However, as George Bernard Shaw once said about the original form of Quaker worship, "I believe in the discipline of silence and can talk for hours about it." I know what discipline this requires, for even when I am listening to another, I'm distracted, thinking ahead to what brilliant thing I am going to say in response. Listening, then, has a spiritual dimension. It suggests I am not the center of the cosmos, but rather one source of words among others. It implies I have no monopoly on wisdom, that true wisdom may be found in listening.
Good morning. So I've been a member of the UU for just under a year now, and I'd never been to a UU before that. So when Mark came up to me and asked me if I would talk about this, I believe, what I first thought was, I don't think I really believe in anything anymore. But really, certainly, I do believe many things. When I entered the doors last September, I was looking to reconnect with the spiritual side of myself. I came to the UU because I know it's a place where all beliefs are valued. And I am interested in all of your beliefs. I also sought out the UU because I was grieving the loss of my 15-year-old dog, Sam. So my compassion goes out to you for Lily. He was a sweet and a funny soul. So I needed human connection. And also, I was wondering what happened to Sam. Where did his consciousness go? So I was coming to see if anyone knew, because certainly that's something we all ponder. I'm a scientist. I've loved science since I was a child. I spent the last 20 years as an entomologist. Okay, now an entomologist is someone who studies insects. Someone always asks me that, so I just want to clear that up, make sure everyone knows what that is. I grew up in a Christian home. When I turned 18, I stopped going to church, though. Originally, I went out of fear. A friend of mine asked me to go to a movie. It was about the rapture, and it was terrifying. So I went to church. But I found over time, it just wasn't as uplifting as I thought it could be. I was being told we were going to hell, no matter what we did, really. And there was a lot of bigotry. Things like gay is a sin, which I have never thought. I did not find in Jesus' teachings anywhere that love is restricted to only certain people. Jesus loved everyone. He kissed the prostitute's feet, so no one was beneath him, and certainly no one's beneath me, or my love and my friendship. Sorry, I'm getting a little bit clamped. So certainly I came to see things differently. But my Christian upbringing taught me a lot of good as well. I still value Christ's teaching. But now, this I believe. I believe sins can be forgiven by mere people. People can be wrong and admit to it, and those that they have harmed can choose to forgive them if they want to. And that is healing for everyone. I believe in the continued search for truth. That should be no surprise since I'm a scientist. So I'm looking for truth in all things. I believe in love and kindness. I believe in justice. I believe in sticking up for others. I believe in the value of life. Even the wasp that stung me the other day, and I still have a big welt on my arm. I believe I have work to do, and I should continue to grow. And I believe that Oclerotatus is not a different genus than Aedes in mosquito taxonomy. There, I said it. But what do I believe about God, if there is one? My thoughts have evolved on this out of my studies as a biologist. Home for the weekend from college, my father noticed that I was reading about the theory of evolution. I could see the concern on his face, and I knew where it came from because I could hear the televangelists that he listened to from my room. And I knew the language that they used about evolution. So we had a heart-to-heart, and I explained to him, as a Christian, I could still see God in the process of evolution, and that it could be possible that God did not create the world in 7 days. And then I promised him, because that didn't satisfy him, that I would never doubt the existence of God. And then a year later, he died. And I immediately doubted the existence of God. I felt guilty at breaking my promise to him so quickly, really. But I wondered what had become of my father. Where did he go? The same thing that I wondered about my sweet Sam. I could not conceive of an afterlife. There's just no empirical evidence for it that I know of. But it was Albert Einstein that brought me back to a concept of God, what that might be for me. Theoretical physicists are rock stars to me, way over my head, but I like to read about their theories and what they believe in God. Like, do they believe in God? What is it? When Albert Einstein was asked if he believed in God, he famously said, "I believe in Spinoza's God, who reveals himself in the orderly harmony of what exists, not in a God who concerns himself with fates and actions of human beings." He was speaking of the God of Baruch Spinoza, the 17th century philosopher. Spinoza's radical idea was that the universe and the divine are not separate. God is not dictating our daily lives or intervening in our affairs. God is the universe itself. God is in all things, and I'd already thought about that myself. Spinoza's divinity is found in the laws of physics, the mathematics of the cosmos, and the astonishing order of nature. My mother and I love to watch the stars, the Perseid meteor showers in August. And now I know that we're found in those meteors. I'm not talking about the primordial elements that are found in the false color images of the Hubble and James Webb telescope. I'm talking about actual amino acids and the precursors to the membrane of our cells have been found in meteorites, and I find that astonishing. So certainly, we have all been formed in the stars. And I wonder, how is it that we went from the elements forged in stars into these conscious beings that are contemplating our own existence? As a biologist, I have observed the divine order that Baruch Spinoza speaks of. It's in our cells, it's in our DNA. And it's possible for me to conceive of that order that I see as God. I believe we are all made of stars, and I believe that connects us. We came from the same matter, and we're linked by that order beneath the chaos that Spinoza speaks of. Spinoza's God bridges the gap between the formation of space and matter and the very real magic of life, all around us through the orderly process of evolution that my father was afraid I would believe in. The complexity of who we are is passed down from our ancestors, and before them, it was passed down from the ocean, and before that, the stars, the Big Bang, and perhaps before that, nothing. But Spinoza's God is in all of us. I really want there to be an afterlife. When I die, I would love to see Sam bounding up to me. And then I want to see my parents and others, but first Sam. That's my version of heaven, and that's what I would like to imagine. But is there an afterlife? I believe I do not have all the answers, and I believe that I will have to be content with not knowing the truth about the afterlife. It is our finite existence, this form right here, right now, that makes life so precious and amazing. And this I know, that we all go on living in the memories of those who loved us, in the words we wrote, in the pictures we took, and through the many small ways that we made the world a better place while we were here. And if there's nothing for us after we die, I believe that some small part of us becomes the basis for new life. and we return to the stardust that we were before. Anything beyond that is the undiscovered country that we all have to cross. Thank you.
Thank you. The Reverend Erica Hewitt says that the offering we take each Sunday should not be a stale habit. It's an opportunity to recommit to this place and to our community. Our offering is an affirmation, a yes. When we give, we say yes to the values of our faith. May our offering today help us practice Unitarian Universalism within and beyond our congregation. Our ushers will now take the offering. You may make an offering online. Also, it's simple on our website. Just look for the donate button and you're there. Thank you for your generosity.
Hi, everyone. My name is Cheiron. I'm going to say that because it's such a difficult name. I hope you can remember it. When Mark asked me to speak today about my beliefs, this story just came forth and wanted to be told. And it was a story that I hadn't thought about in many, many years. But it seems to illustrate my beliefs and how I came to hold my beliefs, and also why I'm a Unitarian. I grew up as an atheist. My parents believed in science, that they thought science would solve everything. They did take me to a Unitarian Universalist church maybe 2 or 3 times during my childhood as a kind of field trip. I think they felt they would be neglecting me if they didn't expose me to religion in some form. And their message was, well, if you insist on having a religion someday, then okay, go ahead and be a UU. That's okay, that's safe. And here I am. So I just want to say thank you, Mom and Dad. You know, your parents are always right, even though you don't realize it, right, until much later. Of course, culturally, growing up in the Seattle area, I was surrounded by Christianity. I sang Christmas carols, admired the beauty of churches, and absorbed the symbols of Christian culture, although I believed I was an atheist. Then when I was 9, I moved to a largely Japanese-American neighborhood in Seattle, where I was able to get in touch with Japanese language and culture. I danced in the annual Bon Odori in Seattle, and sometimes attended the Buddhist church. And for some reason, they call it a church and not a temple. Then I majored in Japanese in university. And at the age of 21, when I graduated, I moved to Japan. I began teaching English in Japanese junior high schools. I was very excited to begin my new life. But instead, I found myself facing one of the loneliest times that I had ever known. What happened was I fell in love with an older Japanese man who, for some reason, was a Christian, one of the very small percentage of Christians in Japan. And I became pregnant for the first time, unexpectedly. And I found, to my surprise, because I had always thought I wouldn't have a child, I would never marry, I found that I was happy to be pregnant with my lover. The only problem was he was married. And when I told him that I was pregnant, he ended the relationship with me. But he told me that I should go back to the United States and raise the child alone, because as a Christian, he believed abortion was a sin, that it was murder. But he was like, you should go back. You should raise the child. At that age, this was just beyond my imagination. You know, I just couldn't see it. And I didn't know what to do. I was alone. He left me. And one day, in a state of a sort of numbness and despair, I found myself walking into a small clinic in Tokyo to have an abortion. There was no one to hold my hand, no one to take me home. And I didn't tell anyone about it, even my own mother back in the States, because I was so ashamed and afraid. And just by way of background, in Japan, even today, women generally need to have some official legal reason to have an abortion, and they have to have their husband's written consent. Yeah, even now. And you have to sign, the husband has to sign his name and also stamp his family seal. They use these carved seals in Japan. And of course, I couldn't get that. And so I practiced my ex-boyfriend's kanji and wrote it myself. And I went and bought a cheap family seal with his last name, and I just stamped it. And I said, for economic reasons, that I needed an abortion. So I arrived at the clinic. They took the paper. For some reason, there was nobody there that day. It was strange. I changed into a gown, entered the operating room alone, and lay down on a gurney. Until recently, abortions in Japan were always performed as a DNC, a dilation and curettage, a bigger operation than we do here, under general anesthesia. The surgical instruments lay on a metal tray beside me, gleaming beneath the lights. To my frightened mind, they looked like sacred vessels prepared for communion. The elderly nurse, dressed in her starched white cap and apron, reminded me of a nun. The doctor lifted this shining curette in his hand. The nurse inserted the IV in my arm. "Count backwards," she said. Ju, ku, hachi. The world disappeared. But then another world opened. I found myself floating in darkness, not the darkness of a room, the darkness of the universe. I was completely cold and alone. Then a presence emerged from the darkness. It seemed to pull me toward an even deeper, strangely comforting aura. And I just surrendered to it. But just then, another presence appeared. It was made of brilliant light and seemed to be intervening on my behalf. It communicated, but without words. But if I tried to put it into words, it was something like this: "Let her go. It isn't her time. Her daughter has agreed to wait for her to be born." The light and the darkness fought over me, but suddenly I was released. I remained suspended in the light. I realized with panic that this meant that I would have to return to the world where I felt so alone and abandoned. And I asked the bright light, "But how can I go on without love?" Then everything changed. I became aware of music. Not human music. It was as though the entire universe was singing. Everything vibrated with wave after wave of love. And I was told, the universe is made of love. This love is infinite. You always have all the love you need. At that moment, the sense of loneliness that I had been carrying throughout my life vanished. Until then, I had spent my life trying to get love from other people. But suddenly I understood. I had been searching for the ocean in the real marks that came and went with the tide. I experienced the reality that humans are not the source of love, but we merely embody the marks of love in fleeting and imperfect patterns. The stream is beautiful, but the stream is not the source. The source had been there, surrounding me all along. But the powerful vision I experienced did not simply tell me that we float in a universe of love. It also dissolved the impossible bind I had found myself in. The impossible choice between my duty to myself, my own life, and the potential life of a child. Instead, my dream suggested another possibility, that my unborn child had not been lost to me forever. She had simply agreed to wait. And is there a slide for me here? Walking by a temple on the way home from the abortion, I noticed the statues of children as in this photo. I wandered in, and for the first time, I really understood the Japanese Buddhist practice of musical kuyo. It's a memorial ritual to comfort the souls of children who die before birth, no matter the reason, be it miscarriage or abortion. Women commission a small statue of Jizo, the protector of unborn children. They dress the statue, so these caps and gowns were knitted by the women who lost a child. They leave toys and food, and they pray that the child's spirit will be released from the cycle of rebirth or reborn into a happy family, perhaps even to the same woman later on in life. At the temple shop, I bought a small Jizo statue myself. For many years, I lit incense and candles before it for the daughter I had lost. I still have that statue today. Many years have passed since then. I've often wondered what happened that day. Was it a near-death experience? A dream created by the anesthesia? An encounter with my own unconscious mind? A genuine spiritual experience? Perhaps all of these. But looking back, it seems important for me to note that my experience was also profoundly an embodied one. It came through my body's experience of sexuality, pregnancy, and surgery, through the frightening responsibility of deciding whether I was capable of raising a child by myself. For many years, I hid this story because I believed it was something to be ashamed of, a story of how my foolish, uncontrollable body had gotten me into trouble. But now I wonder, how many of us carry sacred experiences hidden inside the stories we are least willing to tell? Perhaps the body is not separate from the mind and not separate from the sacred. Perhaps it is one of the places where we encounter the sacred most deeply. But there's one more thing I believe. The deepest lesson of my experience was not only that the universe is made of love, it was that love can transcend the binaries we so often get stuck in. We divide the world into opposites: body or spirit, science or religion, Christianity or Buddhism, life or death, despair or hope. Yet my experience transcended those divisions in a way my conscious mind could not have done. A few years later, after the abortion, under very different circumstances, I did give birth to the daughter whom I was told was waiting for me. Or perhaps I had been waiting for her. She's 41 now, and I still hold her in the light, in my heart, imperfectly, in my human way, feeling gratitude for second chances or endless chances. So this is what I experienced and now believe, a belief that the spaciousness of the Unitarian faith allows me to share here with you today. Love is not something we humans have to work to earn or to give. It is a presence we awaken to. The universe is made of love, and because it is made of love, it is larger than the opposites that so often divide us. Thank you. And would you all stand in spirit or body as you're able and sing hymn number 108, My Life Flows On.
Our service is ending. We will now extinguish the chalice with the words of Jane Malden. May the truth that makes us free, and the hope that never dies, and the love that casts out all fear, lead us forward together. Let the warmth of love hold you, and the spirit of peace bless you this day and the days to come. Amen.